Act 3. Electro-tapers flickered against the walls as the guards marched the Doctor away from the presence chamber. Holding his hand above his head, he gazed curiously about the metallic corridors. If only he could find out what was happening here. Grim possibilities crowded his mind, but attempts to quiz his captors met with no success. He jerked his head towards the ceiling. "Galaxis Bright? That's the big silvery planet in the sky?" No answer. The Doctor sighed and tried again. "This Tonio fellow, what's he done to upset the old chap, then?" The guards remained implacable. "The secrets of Verd?" said the Doctor. "I guess there'd be quite a few of those, wouldn't you?" No response. Of course. "Talkative fellows, aren't you? Are you always like this, or is it just me?" The Doctor hunched his shoulders, resigned. Then, all at once, he lashed out, "Hi!" The guards collapsed, phasers clattering to the ground, as the Doctor skidded away, rushing down the dimly lit corridors. Curses and scramblings echoed behind him, phasers blasted, searing against the walls. The Doctor ducked, darted, another corridor and another, down a staircase, more stairs, more. On and on the Doctor crashed and clattered, desperate to make his escape. But the guards were coming fast, their heavy boots echoing against the cold floors. The Doctor glanced back. They were closing in on him. He skidded round a corner. And that was when, all at once, the Doctor felt an urgent hand clutch at his sleeve, and turned to see a bespectacled, wild-haired old man gazing at him with eager eyes. The old man's words came quickly. "This way, this way." A door whirled shut behind them. "Excellent!" Clapping his hands, laughing merrily, Sly pirouetted between the sleepers in the clearing. The players had vanished, and now there were only Joe, Rhea, and Tonio, slumbering like infants in the leaves and long grass. The little man peered into each face in turn. "Such a prize! And such a one! And such! You'll be pleased with these, won't you, Majesty? Oh, you must. But first, some sport with them. After all, I'm sure their minds are stronger than the minds of mere players. Won't they need to be addled just a little if they are to dream with the Nightdreamer King?" Skipping to the edge of the clearing, Sly plucked a certain little flower. "The Atinati weed," he murmured. "The sweet, blessed Atinati weed." Holding it up in the planet light, he turned it admiringly and sang this ditty. "Mortal fools ignore such flowers, little dreaming of their powers. Dreaming but that's to come, when this flower strikes reason dumb. Reason, no, there's none in love, when planet light shines bright above." Pleased with his rhyme, Sly applauded himself, did a little dance, and fluttered back to the sleepers, squeezing the sticky juice from the centre of the flower, first over Tonio's eyelids, then Rhea's. Deliberating, he crouched beside Joe. Should he squeeze the flower again? He spoke aloud once more. "No need, no, this Tonio, I predict, will be first to awake. And when he awakes, he'll love the first living thing he sees. Dear me," Sly giggled, "I suppose I'd better be careful." And he scampered into the undergrowth, just as Tonio sprang up, surprised. The prince rubbed his eyes. What happened?" Sly sniggered, clapped his hands, and Joe sprang up too. The effect on Tonio was remarkable. Gasping, whimpering a little, he staggered towards her, hesitating, uncertainly, some paces away. He swept back his long blonde hair. His eyes grew wide and brimmed with tears. "Joe," he breathed, "but you're beautiful." "What?" Joe backed away. Now the prince came forward again, arms flung out. "Oh, why didn't I see it before?" He struck the side of his head. his golden wristband clanging against the band that circled his brow. "Joe, I must have been blind, mad, deluded. It's as if I see clearly for the first time, as if all my old life were just a dream, and now... Joe, don't play games. Joe, I love you." A passionate stirring filled Joe's heart. For a moment she might have swooned, even fallen into Tonio's arms, wholly incapable of resisting him. At once she stopped herself. No, this was insane. No, this was wrong. This is ridiculous, Joe protested. "Tonio, you love Rhea." He only laughed. "Rhea? Who's Rhea?" It was then that Rhea rose. "Tonio?" Temporarily she was blinded by sleep. "Tonio, my love, where are you?" "Dear me," muttered Sly to himself. "I think there might be tears on the way. Well, I can't fight. But could I be so cruel? Good old green old Sly? No, never." He snapped his fingers, and Peterkin, in his monster's guise, appeared again, just as Rhea dashed the sleep from her eyes. She looked at him, confused. Then, in a flash, her confusion was gone. "My love!" Rhea cried, and ran to him. "A stranger, you say? What sort of stranger?" "Tall, white-haired, velvet cloak." "Really extraordinary." "You've seen him?" "No, no one." The butler stepped away from the open door, indicating his cramped quarters, a place of finicky ornaments, tousled lampshades, faded etchings, and old magazines stacked in heaps. Floral wallpaper covered the walls, stuck between the metallic ribs, and a shabby, overstuffed sofa squatted atop a brownish, swirling patterned carpet. Impatiently, the eyes of the guards swept over this unprepossessing chamber. One said, exasperated, "The old fool knows nothing." "You're right," said the other after a moment. "We're wasting time." "Sure you won't look around?" The butler's back was bent, and his head wobbled. "He might have slipped by me, this stranger of yours." One guard snorted, the other rolled his eyes. Contemptuously they turned and left, and the butler, straightening his back, swiftly pressed the door control. He had spoken to the guards in a senile, high-pitched whine. Now his voice was deeper, firmer. "It's all right. You can come out now." "That was a risk, wasn't it?" said the doctor, emerging from behind the sofa. He held out his hand. "I owe you some thanks. I'm the doctor." "And I'm the butler. But come into my pantry while I make some tea. You can't tell me you don't need a cup of tea after that." Parting a curtain, the old fellow led the way into a dingy corridor-like space stuffed with jars, bottles, and boxes. Shadowy items of kitchen equipment, hunched or jagged, stood on a much-stained, knife-scored bench. Leaning against a wall was a shiny tray, partially concealed by a checkered dish towel. Tea. Where's the tea?" Pottering around the pantry, the butler resumed something of his earlier, doddering manner. Every so often he would smooth his wild hair or push his spectacles further up his nose. "Dear me, what a night! Perihelion night. That's always trouble for a start. And Lady Rhea defying her father." "Duke Altero? He's her father?" "You mean you really don't know?" The doctor was confused. Was the butler having doubts about helping a stranger? In moments, his manner had changed, and changed again. And why, in any case, was this old fellow helping him? He clutched the butler's arm. "I'm a traveller," he said reassuringly. "I'm no agent from Galaxis Bright." "Oh, I'm sure of that." His eyes narrowing, the butler peered intently into the doctor's face. "Indeed, I think there must be much you do not know. But tell me, surely you know this is an evil moon?" "Evil? What do you mean?" The butler sighed, as if from long weariness. Who would have thought it when Altero fled here? Who would have thought this sanctuary could be a prison? He fled here, said the doctor, but why? It was long ago, came the reply, after his quarrel with Emperor Exis Umain. They had been such friends from boyhood, too. Why, Altero had even married the Emperor's beautiful sister. For a moment the butler was lost in reverie. Then he shook his head. But what's that? What made them quarrel? Why, it was the awakening, when Galaxis Bright, after a long isolation, opened up to trade with its sinister sister planet, Galaxis Dark. Altero warned that our civilization would be ruined, that the Darklings would plunder us, exploit us, but the Emperor refused to listen. Always a one for science, progress, reason, was Emperor Exis Umain. Something of a scientist himself, indeed. But of course, you'd know nothing of all this, Doctor, would you? The doctor frowned, troubled. Where could all this be leading? Curiously, he peered about him, at the kitchen equipment, at the tray that gleamed behind its concealing dish towel. There was something strange about this pantry. And about this butler, too. Alas, the old fellow went on, Altero was right. The Darklings are subtle in their imperial sway. For yes, theirs is an empire in all but name. If we do not sell, they take. Their prices, in any case, are a kind of taking. And now they know about the gravity rocks. Ah, Doctor, think of such evil, spreading across the trade routes of the galaxy. I'll think about it, said the doctor, if you explain to me what you mean. But first, I think you should tell me who you really are. The butler smiled. What's that, Doctor? May I ask, have you been in service here for long? You would think so, wouldn't you? But the old butler died. These quarters were his. I've just taken them over. I came from the homeworld only a short time ago. Oh, quite a short time. Yes, that makes sense. The doctor's tone was ominous. Suddenly, like a conjurer, he pulled the checkered dish towel from the tray. It was no ordinary tray. A visi-screen, said the doctor, and connected, I see, to the Duke's presence chamber. Next, the doctor indicated something that looked like a kettle. Then what might have been a vegetable basket and a box of wafers. A portable electron microscope, I believe. And what's this? Rock samples ready for analysis, scientific slides. Quite a laboratory you've got here, for a butler. The pretend butler should perhaps have been alarmed. Instead, he only smiled, his old eyes twinkling behind his little glinting spectacles. Very good, Doctor. Very good indeed. And with that, he threw back his head, laughed heartily, and announced that he was really Munix Axis, a scientist from the court of Galaxis Bright, and close confidant of the Emperor. Under pressure from the Darklings, he went on, Emperor Exis Umain had sent him to study the gravity rocks that were found only on Verd, lining the gravity wells. Gravity rocks, said the doctor, picking up a small, jagged rock sample from the vegetable basket. Munex nodded. A source of artificial gravity. Natural, cheap, abundant. Imagine if it could be synthesized. Why, the value could be incalculable to the Darklings. Emperor Exis Umain, Munex explained, had no desire to invade his old friend's realm. While Tonio tried to win round Duke Altero, Munex was to have planned mining operations. But nothing had gone according to plan. What a fool I've been, said the old man. How could I have believed we could mine this rock? No good has ever come of it. Nothing but evil, madness. And Altero thought that he could live here and ignore it. How, I ask, when it gives the moon what gravity it possesses? Fascinated, the doctor pondered these words. But how much really did Munex know? The doctor wondered if he should mention the creature in the cave, and what his new friend would say if he did. This gravity, the doctor ventured. "I get the feeling it's not always efficient." "You speak of the gravity decay, Doctor." "Ah, it has broken out all over Verd. Some fear the gravity might evaporate altogether, stripping this moon of its atmosphere, its vegetation, of all possibility of supporting life." Thoughtfully, the doctor stroked his chin. Well, there was nothing to lose. "So, tell me, how do the Nightdreamers fit in with all this?" Quite what response he expected, he was by no means sure. As it happened, Munex only looked puzzled, then irritated, as if the doctor were joking with him. "You speak of folklore, legend, Doctor. I'm speaking of scientific fact." Quite. The doctor studied the rock sample, turning it in his hand. "I suppose you've looked at this under the electron microscope?" "I've tried. Can't say I've learned much." "Do you mind?" Slipping the sample under the kettle-like apparatus, the doctor punched a keypad concealed under the spout. He shook his head. No good. "Trans-dimensional, I'd say. An idea dawned in the doctor's mind. "Listen, old chap, I don't suppose you can show me a way out of here. One that wouldn't mean going past those guards." "There's the servo shaft." Munex peered into the visi-screen tray, using one of the handles to flip from camera to camera. "Yes, it's clear. But, Doctor, what do you want to do?" "I've a theory about all this." The doctor slipped the rock sample into his jacket. "But I'll need to get back to the TARDIS and its databanks if I'm going to—" "The what?" said Munex. There was no time to explain. In moments, the doctor had vanished into the servo shaft, thanking his strange new friend for all his help. The old fellow only looked perplexed. But when he was alone, his manner changed again. Looking round suspiciously, he drew back into a corner of the pantry, raised a hand to his mouth, and spoke into a gleaming ring on his hand. "Esnik, are you there? This doctor, he's a darkling, all right. But what a ridiculous disguise! Velvet and lace, I ask you. What does he think he is? A fine courtier? Why, if I ever had such a fop in my court, I'd throw him out on his ear at once. Absurd fellow. But he wants the gravity rocks, that much is clear. Pursue him, Esnik." A voice crackled from the ring. "And destroy him, your Imperial Highness?" The old man's eyes gleamed. "Curse it!" Esnik snapped off his communicator. Several messages about this doctor had come while the Chief of Guards, his head still throbbing from the stun ray, had groped, half undressed, back to his quarters. He had hoped he could ignore the matter. Right now, he had other things on his mind. Or rather, one thing. Finding Rhea. But there were more things to consider. Swiftly, Esnik donned a fresh uniform, adjusting his sleek leathers with sharp, angry gestures. He supposed he had to obey the so-called butler. After all, he could not be sure, just yet, that he did not still need him. But soon, the butler indeed, thought that Esnik was his own agent, his own plant. The old fool had never guessed the truth. The Chief of Guards felt a surge of confidence. This night, and all its follies, would be over soon enough. Fondly he thought of his marriage and the bliss to come, for Rhea would not escape him, of that much he was sure. What an ornament she would make to the court of Galaxis Dark. Esnik smiled and drew his visor over his eyes. "Well, here goes." Diving from the battlements, the doctor scrambled at the air with his hands and scraped a tall tree. Kicking against a castle wall, he rose just in time, soaring above the woods. With long strokes he swam, his cloak rippling behind him like a pennant. Swimming in the air, the doctor reflected, might be easy for those who had done it for years. It was not so easy for beginners. As he flailed on through the night sky, he only hoped he could get back to the TARDIS. Above him, the great silvery ball of Galaxis Bright loomed alarmingly close. But something else was closer. Peering earnestly into the dark woodland, the Doctor failed to see a panel sliding in the metallic side of the castle, and the sinister figure that was revealed there, mounted on a shiny fendered rocket bike. Esnik gunned the engine, swooping into the night. "What the?" The Doctor turned, startled. Flashing sharply in the planet light, the rocket bike and its leather-garbed rider bore down on him like a hungry beast. Flames and churning smoke billowed behind it, and mounted between the handlebars like a jutting evil snout was a large and menacing super phaser. Esnik fired it. Rays zapped out. Desperately, the Doctor floundered in the air as Esnik tore towards him. Fresh rays fizzed out, narrowly missing him. The Doctor lunged, vanishing into the trees. Clutching at branches, he propelled himself down through the weightless woods. Leaves and vines waved weirdly around him. Flowers crumbled at his flailing touch, their petals floating upwards like thick, fragrant smoke. Strange birds flurried. Dappled planet light flickered and flashed. And then there were the crashings through the leaves behind. It was Esnik coming fast. Rays burst again, violently fluorescing in the silvery darkness. The Doctor hid in the undergrowth, gripping at ferns. The woods were deep and dark and vast. His prospects of escape were good. They had to be. If only he could hold still. If only he could hide himself while Esnik went by. The rocket bike whizzed past. Esnik cursed, turning. He slowed down. Its engine murmuring, the rocket bike edged its way, slower, slower, towards the Doctor. The harsh voice of the Chief of Guards rang out through the trees. "You can't escape me, spy. I know you're here." The Doctor barely breathed. Gripping the ferns tighter, he struggled not to fly up into the air. His cloak fluttered dangerously. The rays had singed it, and a smell of burning, thin but distinct, wafted up from the undergrowth. Esnik sniffed the air. By now, the rocket bike was barely crawling, and the Doctor wondered if he could rise up suddenly, knocking the rider away. When the precarious ferns ripped from the ground, and the Doctor, with a cry, hurtled into the air. The rocket bike spun round. Esnik shouted. He fired. The Doctor grabbed a branch, swinging up just in time to avoid the searing ray. Rapidly, he hurled himself upwards, crushing through the foliage, the leaves and coniferous needles and pungent berries and petals cascading all around him, a wild silvery whirl in the eerie planet light. Suddenly, prospects of escape were remote. Esnik was after him. It was hopeless. But not quite. Just as he was about to spin up beyond the woods, the Doctor grabbed a tree trunk. For a crucial instant he was concealed, lost to view in the overhanging branches, while Esnik, confused again, turned the bike in the air. The Doctor had one chance only. He swung out, leaping onto the bike. Startled, Esnik fired the super phaser again, but the rays shot uselessly into the undergrowth. Crying out, he grabbed for the holster on his hip, flourishing his own phaser like a silver dagger. The Doctor knocked it flying. The two men grappled. Out of control, the rocket bike spun, surged, spiraled. Twice the Doctor nearly fell. Esnik clutched the Doctor's throat. Backwards hurtled the rocket bike, whirling inexorably towards the implacable walls of the mighty iron castle. Battlements loomed like monstrous jagged teeth. "Look out!" The Doctor's voice was a strangled gasp. Esnik turned. It was too late. Lashing out, the Doctor sent his opponent hurtling through the air. With a cry, Esnik thudded into a tall tower, then thumped down on the battlements, spent like an enormous black leathery insect. The Doctor just had time to take control of the rocket bike. Letting out the throttle, he soared away. "Joe, come back!" Striding towards the TARDIS, Joe turned sharply, I told you, I've had enough of... Tonio caught her hand. Marry me, Jo. I know you feel the same way. What? First Rhea, now me? He sank to one knee. Jo, it's perihelion night. You wouldn't sulk in a cramped old spaceship, would you, when you could be out in this enchanted wood with me? Cramped? Actually, it's bigger on the how beautiful you are in the planet light. Tonio looked up imploringly, the golden band at his forehead flashing. Why, I can see it in your eyes, Jo. We were meant for each other, you know we were. Against her will, Jo softened. There was no doubt about it. Tonio was charming. Too charming. What am I thinking? She broke away, and would have plunged into the TARDIS, if Tonio, with a teasing laugh, had not reeled in front of her, blocking the door. Quite the little moonshrew, aren't you? He grinned. But I'll tame you soon enough. It's destiny, Jo. It's a trick. Jo snapped her fingers in Tonio's face. Rhea! Think of Rhea! What's Rhea to me? It was a fair point. On the other side of the clearing, humming and smiling, Tonio's beloved sat with Peterkin the cobbler, his masked head in her lap. Marvelling, as if it were silk or the softest fur, she stroked the lumpy papier-mâché. Darling monster, sweet monster. Jo slumped down. Oh, this is madness! Talk about a comedy of errors! The love-struck Tonio, marvelling at her beauty, only leaned against the side of the TARDIS, sighed, and slithered to the ground. Jo shook her head. There was a sparkle of green, a jingling bell, and Sly was before her. So sad, my dear, after all this sport I've made. Sport? Jo bristled. What have you done to them? She leapt up, chasing the little sprite. Joyously he capered round the clearing. Jingle, jangle, jingle, jangle. He leapt into a tree. Addled all right, he cried from on high, plucking the glittery flower from his buttonhole. He twirled it in his fingers. Triumphantly he sniffed its perfume. My master will be in ecstasies. Addled, everyone addled, and only the Atinati weed can put it all to rights. Come down, Jo demanded. Release them. Laughing, Sly slipped the flower into his buttonhole again. Oh, I don't think I'll do that, do you? What, me? Jo gestured at the lovers. Yes, now! Sly's voice turned bitter. And why shouldn't these fools be enslaved? Answer me that. It's wicked, Jo said. It's wrong. And it's too tempting for me. Yes, that was the truth, wasn't it? Jo could barely admit it to herself. But again and again she had longed only to throw herself into Tonio's arms, forgetting Rhea, forgetting the danger they were all in, forgetting everything. And only now did she acknowledge in her heart just how much she had been tempted to leave the Doctor for a new life with Latep at the end of their adventure on Spiridon. Oh, perhaps Latep had not been the right man. But Jo knew she wanted love, and secretly a part of her loved Sly's magic, and only wanted it to go on and on. Her words of protest were empty. Besides, they were useless. But not quite. Wrong? Sly's voice returned like a slow echo. Confused, the little sprite floated back to the ground. For a moment he appeared to be magical no longer, just a troubled, confused boy. You're right, he said sadly. And yet who am I but the slave of my master? Oh, how I long to be free again. Poor Sly. Whether he were really repentant, Jo could not be sure. But she could be a trickster too. She had to keep him talking, just keep him talking, then snatch that flower. Jo was herself again. A new, steely resolve filled her heart. Yes, she told herself, she could conquer her temptations. Yes, she could destroy Sly's magic. She must. Your master? She prompted. The little man was trembling. He sank down, covering his eyes. The Night Dreamer King! Now Jo could have darted forward, overpowering him. She was not to have the chance. Instead, there was a mighty rumbling. The ground trembled, and a swirl of visionary colour welled up all around them, as if called forth by Sly's cowering words. The little man was terrified. Majesty! Majesty! What's happening? Jo cried. Alas, our revels in this sweet night air are ended. His power's depleting. No more games. He wants us now. At once, Jo felt pure fear. In an instant, the visionary colours were a hurricane of light, a relentless churning vortex, consuming the clearing in a ferocious storm. Just in time she scrambled back, avoiding its clutching wildness. Sly was not so lucky. Shrieking, the little man was swept up, spiralling round and round in the mighty field of force. All, Majesty, all, he cried in an echoing, distorted voice. An end of Sly, even Sly, poor, poor Sly. What he meant, Jo could not say. She knew only that he was reaching out to her desperately. She struggled to grab his little hand, but the winds forced her back. It was no good. Sly vanished into a green, starry cascade. But on and on the flashing colours whirled, faster and faster. Round the edges of the clearing, trees whipped wildly. Some hurtled through the air, ripped up by the roots. The lovers sprawled. Still the ground shook and shivered, boomed and bucked, as if it were about to burst apart. And now a phantom creature surged into the night, filling the sky like a vision of doom. It was a gigantic scaly serpent, roaring deafeningly through ravening fangs. Down it swooped and down. It's not real, Jo told herself. It's a vision, a dream. But this was a dream that threatened to kill. Jo and her companions, and the TARDIS too, whooshed up from the ground like leaves in a wind. It's in my mind. It's sucking at my mind. Jo span in the air. She clutched at her head. Dazzled, her eyes took in the silvery immensity of Galaxis Bright, the tortured woodlands, the TARDIS, the lovers, the Peterkin monster. And suddenly a rocket bike hurtling through the air. Doctor! Jo cried. Her eyes widened, and she exclaimed in joy as she saw the familiar silver-haired rider, his cloak billowing wildly behind him. He called above the chaos, Jump on, Jo! The rocket bike swooped down. Jo gritted her teeth. With the courage of desperation, she sprang cat-like, leaping on behind the Doctor. But the others! Doctor, they're... Against his will, the Doctor swerved, careering towards the monstrous phantom. At once they were caught up in its hideous thrall, swirling round inside it. Crazed flashings filled the air. It's not real, Jo burst out. It's not real. It's... No! The Doctor's cry was louder. No, I won't let you! For moments, all was crashing, crazed wildness, as if the night itself would be torn asunder, rent by the violence of the psychic storm. But it was not to last. The Doctor screamed, a strange, high-pitched scream like the tolling of a bell, indefinitely prolonged. Flashings like 1,000 rapid bursts of lightning filled the air, and the noise rose to a crescendo. Then, without warning, the noise and the light and the churning storm were gone, and the rocket bike descended to the clearing, where all was as it had been before. Or almost. Tonio leaned against the TARDIS, dreaming of Jo. Peterkin slept in Rhea's arms. But Sly was gone, and here was the Doctor, collapsed across the handlebars. Jo shook him. Doctor, are you all right? Really, you're covered with leaves and twigs. Why, you look like... The Doctor turned to her. I'll tell you one thing, Jo. I might not survive a third attack. A third? You mean you've seen that thing before? Jo's heart thudded hard. Distractedly, she brushed down the doctor's clothes, but he barely noticed. Hopping off the rocket bike, he paused only to pat it fondly, looked wryly at the lovers, and reached into the pocket for a small dark rock. I wonder. He strode towards the TARDIS. That monster, Jo continued. It's a dream, isn't it? A vision? The Doctor turned sharply. No, Jo, it's real. And next time, I think we'll see just how real. Where am I? Slowly, Esnik raised his head. He was lying sprawled on a cold, grilled floor. Above him was the sky, with the great disk of Galaxis Bright dazzlingly, almost alarmingly close. Ah, yes, he was up on the battlements. The Chief of Guards moaned, remembering everything. Esnik had not, he supposed, had the best of evenings, and ruefully he wondered if it could get any worse. For now it hardly seemed likely. The Doctor lost. Rhea lost. This terrible aching in his head. Hauling himself to his feet, he was thankful that at least he had broken no bones. A strange humming came from below. Puzzled, Esnik went to the side of the tower, looking down through the zigzagging, teeth-like battlements. Perhaps it was just his aching head, but something looked awry. What was this stirring, this rippling in the woods? What were these greenish, strange lights hovering like outriders of a distant storm? Then there was the sound again, not just from the woods, but from the castle. A low, mantra-like thrumming, drumming, emanating from the metallic walls. Esnik would never have admitted it to himself, but he was frightened. He turned, uncertain, just as green light burst all around him. He cried out, doubling over, but his ordeal, as it happened, was not to last for long. Soon enough, the lights subsided, but when once again Esnik stood upright, a green residual glow burnt in his eyes. "Majesty," he murmured. "Majesty, I hear you." "Jo, can't you shut him up?" Annoyed, the Doctor turned from the computer. Jo pursed her lips. Hadn't she tried, and tried, and tried to make Tonio stop these sighings, these languishings? Why, she had tried even when she hadn't wanted to try. And this was all the thanks she got. Typical. Well, at least he's not chasing me round the console anymore. No, said the Doctor, but I could do without that music. Where did he find that flute, anyway? It's a recorder. I don't know. It was here in the TARDIS, wasn't it? Enraptured, Tonio trilled his serenades. Rhea, with her monster-headed beloved, was quieter, but Jo found them equally exasperating. She supposed they could hardly have left the lovers out in the gravity well, but she rather wished they had. What a trial they had been! Shaking her head, Jo watched as Rhea counted the monster's stubby fingers, murmuring a silly rhyme. "What are we going to do about them?" said Jo. "We can't leave them like this, and sly." Grimly, the Doctor held up the rock sample. "Right now, Jo, that's the least of our problems." "Oh, thank you. You mess about with your silly old rock while I—" "Silly old rock?" The Doctor turned sharply. "My dear girl, do you realize what this is? I've had my suspicions, but I couldn't be sure. Not without the TARDIS and its memory banks." "Doctor, what are you talking about?" "This isn't rock, Jo. It's shed skin, or a flake of it." For a moment, Jo could not imagine what this meant. Then she did. She gulped. "Skin? You mean from that thing we saw outside?" "That was just a dream vision, a projection," said the Doctor. "The real thing lives inside this moon." Jo's eyes widened. "The Night Dreamer King?" "Actually, Jo, it's an Aribo worm." "Oh, what?" said Jo. A vast, transdimensional, spaceborne creature that feeds on psychic energy. I thought they were just myth, legend. The doctor paced, troubled. That explains what's happening here, don't you see? The psychic manifestations, the people taken, turned into night dreamers, kept like batteries for the Naribo worm. And the gravity. Now Joe was confused. The gravity? What's that got to do with it? Quite a lot, unless I'm much mistaken. The worm creates its own gravity. That's what lets it survive in the airless void of space, and draws its prey towards it. Then that's what captured the TARDIS, and that's what keeps us here. The doctor nodded. Joe began, But this worm isn't in space? Exactly. The doctor's eyes glittered. Joe looked thoughtful. So that's how this moon has such strange gravity. But why is it so strange? Why isn't it even? Now that's what I don't quite understand, said the doctor. Even the memory banks can't help us much. There's so little known about these creatures. Oh, do shut up, there's a good chap. Tonio looked up, startled, as the doctor snatched the recorder out of his hands. Affronted, the young prince snatched it back. Oh, really? The doctor snatched it again. This might have gone on for some moments more, but just then Joe pointed anxiously to the scanner. Doctor, look! They had forgotten to check what was happening outside. While the doctor analysed the rock sample, the scanner had shown only an empty clearing, ghostly in the planet light. Now the clearing was still empty. But leaves fell rapidly from the branches, trees crumbled and died, and fallen logs floated off into the air. The woods, said Joe, they're dying. The gravity decay, of course. The doctor struck his forehead. Reeling round, he thrust the recorder into Tonio's hands again. Prince, you and your two friends can stay here. Joe, come with me. But doctor, what's... The doctor turned sharply, his face grim. Joe, everyone on this moon is in deadly danger. We've got to get back to the castle and save them. Bewildered, Joe could only follow as the doctor rushed from the TARDIS. They struggled back to the rocket bike, half leaping, half swimming through the fractured gravity. Lunging, the doctor grabbed the machine just as it was about to spiral up into the air. Jump on, Joe, and hang on tight. Doctor, you're not making sense, Joe protested, shouting over the rocket bike as they revved away from the clearing. The creature's wounded, dying, the doctor shouted back. That must be why it's hiding out here. Twice it has tried to take over my mind. It's desperate for energy, more and more to keep itself alive. Before it dies, I'll wager it consumes every mind here. We've got to get everyone off this moon, and fast. But Ria's father, will he listen? Joe cried. The doctor's reply was ominous. He's controlled by the Naribo worm, completely in its power. Blazing fire, the rocket bike whizzed into the night.